care about the math. We all just saw the Kansas City Chiefs season die. That and more on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready, Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today by Locked On NFL expert, The Legacy, Louis DiBiase. On today's show, we are going to break down an awesome Week 14 in the NFL. We got to talk about the AFC North and all the crazy results there. We got to talk about the Colts season actually dying, but they're not alone because we just saw the Chiefs season die as the Texans keep on rolling. Before we dive into all of it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen, and thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Louis, it was what we all did not expect to see, but it finally happened. The Chiefs just keep on losing. They can't figure things out. They drop to the Texans 20-10, and it does look like the season is over. And, you know, over on Locked On Chiefs, they see it for what it is as well.
Chiefs hand the ball, this game, and their season away against the Houston Texans on Sunday Night Football. No excuses, nothing else you can do. The Stars gave it up. A lot of injuries in this. There's a lot to go into it. The defense showed its backbone, but it wasn't enough. And the offense, that is usually the strength of this team, has continued its downward spiral to the point that they are not going to be in the postseason contention. Though they have a mathematical chance still, what happens next? This is a failure of multiple stars and certainly of the coaching staff. We're going to break it all down on Locked On Chiefs with my partner, Chris Clark. And we're going to be here 5 days a week until the end of the season and through the draft and through next season. Nothing stops because this dynasty still has a chance to resurge, but it's not going to happen right now.
And they're already talking draft in Chiefs land now, and that kind of tells you where it's at. And what I found so insane about this game is just how bad it all went down. This just wasn't a fender bender. This was the big one at Talladega, man. Like, it blew up in smoke. Mahomes having that long stretch of time where he couldn't complete a pass and he had multiple interceptions. The drops by the Chiefs offense throughout the game, going for it on fourth down. It's just, you could tell they were pressing every single button, pulling every trick they had left in the hat, and it wasn't going to work.
Look, when the margin of error is that small, when you're playing close games year after year, game after game, even for a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who normally are so good at finding ways to win, to make the play to win the game, not to lose the game, eventually it's very hard to sustain that level of high success when you play that style of ball. And obviously, like, Travis Kelce choked that away. Mahomes had some up and down plays. Rashee Rice had some drops. But again, like, when the margin of error is that small, you can't afford any sort of mistakes. And so it feels like the Chiefs' luck has kind of run out. And that's, again, what happens when you do this year after year. You eventually will regress to the means, and a lot of teams have done that in the past, and it's finally caught up to Kansas City.
No, it 100% caught up to them, and you could tell they looked like a team that just couldn't get anything to go their way, and it looks like a team that probably had a lot of things go their way. And you don't want to say, they won because they got lucky and things went their way. That's not the point. The point is what you're saying, where you have so many things go right, you win so many close score games, so many things break your way throughout the years, even if you deserve them and even if you play well and all that different stuff. But this just looked like a team where they are at the end of this version of the Chiefs. We're going to need to see who without Travis Kelce and maybe without Andy Reid. I think that's going to be a big conversation here going forward is it maybe time for Andy Reid to step aside? I think it might be too early to have those conversations. I don't think Big Red is had the game passing by or anything like that, but the Chiefs are clearly at the end of a life cycle and they need to kind of shed their skin and become a new animal.
The roster is just not good enough now to where every game they are asking Mahomes and Kelsey and Jones on the defensive side of the ball to bail them out. And I think they are, like you're saying, getting to the point where, not for Mahomes more so, but like Kelsey and Jones, you're at the end of that era where you can't always ask, you need new alphas to step up. And I don't think that roster currently has those players. So yeah, it feels like kind of the end of that first Patriots run where you need a new image, a new era, a new core around Tom Brady. And I think they've got a lot of work to do this offseason.
You see it a lot in basketball, too. Patrick Mahomes has always been compared to Steph Curry. You know, they are a natural comparison for the way they've changed their respective sports and being at the time. And you've seen Golden State with Andre Iguodala at first, but then they had to revamp it for the second.
Durant. And then look at even after Durant, like there was a couple seasons where they were bad and they had to get that Wiggins
they came back.
And they won in 22. So I think that's what the Chiefs do. And I think that's just a cycle of life in the NFL. I mean, they've been to an AFC title or Super Bowl for almost a decade straight. Eventually, it does catch up to you. And I think most teams would take the run that KC's been on.
And they're certainly not alone. I think one of the biggest talking points now that we're into December, one of the big surprises of this NFL season is the top dogs in the AFC struggling with Burrow, who we're going to talk about, who might be dead now, and Josh Allen, whose Buffalo Bills aren't leading their division, and the Ravens, who we're going to talk about here in a second, too. It's all setting up the rest of the show because the big thing is that these big-time quarterbacks who have been the powers in the AFC for the last couple of years, they're having a big step back, and we're seeing a lot of new teams that are a surprise to people.
And the Houston Texans are one of those teams. I just want to give them a shout out because for years now, they've been knocking on the door of they get a playoff win in the wild card round, but every time they run into a Kansas City, a Baltimore, they're just quite not there yet. But the roster looks great, and you're like, I think they could get there at some point. This feels like that statement win for this football team with how good that defense looks and the way C.J. Stroud answered playing against pressure and the way he started the second half 0 for 7 and then heated up again at the end, pulling a rabbit out of a hat time after time. If the Texans get like almost rookie year version of CJ Stroud in the playoffs with that defense, this could be a dangerous dark horse team to watch in that conference.
No, the defense is definitely the thing to discuss, and the defense absolutely dominated the Chiefs out there, and that's something that's obviously going to get talked about on Locked On Texans. Here's my guy John Hickman after the game.
All week, it felt like the first team of 20 was going to win this game. It just so happened to play in favor for the Houston Texans. I'm John Hickman of the Locked On Texans podcast, your team every day. A defensive matchup from both teams. Patrick Mahomes looking a little bit normal. 3 turnovers, a couple of sacks, no touchdowns from Patrick Mahomes. And also the Kansas City Chiefs defense made it hard on Houston. However, C.J. Stroud was able to get a touchdown early. They had a rough patch in that third quarter. They would have able to put it away in that fourth quarter with a Dario Ngubwale touchdown. The story of the game is really the defense hitting, Jalen Petrie hitting, Kamari Lassiter hitting and getting a turnover. Azeez Al-Sayer, Walter Payton Man of the Year award versus Walter Payton of the Year man. Him and Kelsey going at it. He gets the edge by getting the interception. Houston now has 5 wins in a row. They have controlled their destiny since the Jacksonville Jaguar game. And now the playoffs, it's a real thing.
It's a real thing for the Houston Texans, no doubt about it. They do deserve a ton of credit. And I think my point about the Texans here, and you're right, C.J. Stroud deserves a ton of credit. He did the Patrick Mahomes thing where it wasn't beautiful the whole game, but he made the plays. He was running around, scrambling for yards, finding a way to keep plays alive. He was fantastic. He looked like Mahomes at times in this game. But my final big point is we're making like big picture points about the NFL through the spectrum of this game.
Yeah.
But look at the best teams. It's a lot of our defense leads us. Our defense carry. Again, it's been the NFL is cyclical. You see offensive outbursts, the defenses counter, the defenses get the edge, and then the offense has to counter, and it happens through spans of 3, 4, 5 seasons. We are seeing the climax of that 4 or 5 year window going away from Patrick Mahomes and the Rams 54-51 and these high shootouts with all these big explosive plays. We're seeing it switch back to maybe some style of football we saw earlier in our lives watching football, where these defenses like New England and Denver, they're really actually what makes the difference in the NFL right now, not the explosive offensive stuff. And I think this game specifically is a microcosm of that change around the league.
Yeah, they've caught up. I mean, this cover 2 world we live in right now is making quarterbacks and offenses adjust. And I don't know if, like the Eagles, you look at last year, they adjusted and became a ran-first offense, and they won a championship that way. I don't know if other teams with star quarterbacks have adjusted yet, and that's why you're seeing what you're getting right now. On top of just there's probably not enough good quarterback play around the league. That's a very defensive-minded league right now. But you could say that's in the NFC too. I mean, outside of the Rams, what consistent offense do you have in that conference either? This is a defense wins championship kind of NFL right now.
No, it was a lot easier to score when you were seeing loaded boxes with 8 guys and only post safety, single high looks, and you could run play action off the wide zone and hit the bootlegs and the glance routes over the middle. And, when RPO was really first coming in, and now teams have adjusted to that. And that's why size is real big in the NFL right now too, because if you're going to play 2 high safety looks and still be able to stop the run, you need bigger guys and you need bigger bodies and that power, you know what I mean? So I feel like we're seeing a lot of changes that are kind of a symptom of what we're seeing from a schematic standpoint.
I almost wonder if you're going to see like offenses now, they want bigger contested catch receivers because there's less space. Does the pocket passer start to make a revived career in the NFL because you got to throw with anticipation in these tight, zone windows? Again, like you said, the NFL moves in circles, and this year I don't think offenses can move fast enough to adjust. So it could come down to whichever defense, kind of like a goalie in hockey, which one gets hot the quickest. And Houston looks like one of those teams right now that if they just get in, I think they're going to have a chance.
Yeah, their defense is so good. It's
so
like
good.
They're always going to have a time, you know what I mean? And I think the match coverages, we're seeing such 2 high safety looks that are turning into cover 4, cover 6, and they're doing with the rules that defensive coverages are using where it can turn into man coverage and, a backside safety and cover 4.
And I don't think quarterbacks are processing fast enough to read that. Yeah.
It's harder to as well. It's all together. It's really crazy what we're seeing in the NFL this year. And one of the teams that was taking advantage of that early was the Indianapolis Colts with their run game. But since the trade deadline and going to get Sauce Gardner, everything has gone off the rails. And now Daniel Jones is lost for this season and who knows how long. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't an average picture frame. You preload the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed. It's a huge win. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used, not forgotten in a drawer. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off the best-selling Carver mat frames named #1 by Wirecutter. Use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to our listeners and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. Again, breaking down a crazy Week 14. The Chiefs are officially dead. The Texans continue to rise. To have competition in the AFC South as they come for the division lead because the Jacksonville Jaguars are taking a commanding lead after their win over the Indianapolis Colts. But that was not the biggest story in this one, folks. The Colts lose again. They lose 36-19, and not only that, but they lose Daniel Jones for the year with a torn Achilles. And my guy Jake Arthur, my guy Jake Arthur from Locked On Colts, going through it after this one.
Where to begin? All right, so the Colts did not respond well to Daniel Jones' early exit against the Jaguars. Jones suffered an Achilles injury, which, of course, the big fear there is that it's a torn Achilles and that he's out for the year, which could maybe go into next year. But the Colts were just obviously completely deflated by that. They got slammed 36-19. Very few positive takeaways to come out of this. Riley Leonard maybe looked a little bit better at quarterback than you would expect as a 6th-round rookie, but what does that get you? You still have to face the Seahawks.
Well, Jake got cut off there because it was such a depressing loss. But Riley Leonard, we're talking about how well he played. You know how it went for Indianapolis. They have lost their grip on the division. They look like the best team in football the first half of the season. Now they're without Daniel Jones. Anthony Richardson is still on IR because he was warming up with stretch bands in the locker room and smacked himself in the eye and snapped his orbital bone. I mean, since that trade deadline, they traded multiple first-round picks to go out and get Sauce Gardner, and everybody was like, whoa, man, like that is a bet on Daniel Jones. That's a bet on your organization. That seems like you got real excited too fast and made the move. Then they started losing. Daniel Jones breaks his fibula. It's fractured. He's playing through it. Now he tears his Achilles. This is a full-on collapse from the Colts that has multi-year impact down the line.
There's not many teams that I'd rather have. Like the Colts situation is one I would not want in the NFL because, like you said, they went too aggressive too soon. It's not going to pay off in the form of a playoff run this year. Daniel Jones now with a torn Achilles heading into next year. He already was kind of regressing as the second half of the season continued on. Are you going to go all in on that again? They just feel like they're caught in this middle purgatory Pittsburgh Steelers like situation where it's what approach do we take, but you almost have no choice but to run this back even with Jones coming off an Achilles tear because you don't have your picks. So it's a really tough spot to be in if you're Indianapolis. The fact that this might not result in even a playoff berth after the majority of the year, you're the 1 seed in the conference is really tough to swallow.
Louis, it's one thing to be broke and stay broke. But imagine if you're broke, you're homeless, and you think that you found a winning lottery ticket on the thing, and you're like, oh my God, I just won the lottery. And you go out and you get a big loan from the payday place because you know I just hit the lottery. I'm going to celebrate today even if I don't get this money for a minute. Yeah. And then you
and it never cashes.
And it turns out that it actually wasn't a winning lotto ticket. You don't know how to read. You know what I mean? Like, oh no. Like, that's basically what happened to the Colts. It's not just that they were broke and they're sad about their broke and they don't have their quarterback situation figured out and they can't get it right since Andrew Luck and blah, blah, blah. They really, truly believe like, holy crap, we stumbled into gold. We stumbled into a gold mine. And then for it to be pulled out from under their feet in this way, Daniel Jones, even if he plays next season, they're saying, you know, the timeline's 9 months. He could be back for next year. Are you really going to rush him to do that? And if he comes back and plays off a torn Achilles, we've seen Kirk Cousins is an older quarterback, but we've seen quarterbacks try to come back right after Achilles tear, and it's just not quite right for a while. So this could have not only an impact this year where they gave up a first-round pick, but next year where they gave up a first-round pick. Both the seasons where they committed a first-round pick because they thought they would be so good, they could be without the guy who made them feel like they could be that good. It is a disaster.
I guess you can understand why of all GMs that took this approach, it was Chris Ballard. The minute he saw any signs of life at that position that's been so dead.
Desperate man.
Since Andrew Luck retired, he instantly went all in now. And of course, why does he care about the future of the draft picks? He's got to save his job right now. So to go all in, you know, I guess from Ballard's perspective makes some sense. But for the Colts' future now, they're in a really tricky situation. And again, you have no choice now. Like, you put yourself in this Daniel Jones box and you locked it from the outside. And that's the problem with Indianapolis right now. And Riley Leonard, he had a couple nice flashes here and there today, but they are not making the playoffs at this point.
No, especially with the Texans on their heels too. You know, it's going to be even more difficult. I said it online, but basically what happened is the Indianapolis Colts pushed all their chips all in, and then a nuke hit the casino. That's basically what happened to the Colts in this
too.
One.
My God.
And credit to the Jags. The Jags won. They take over the division. They ran the football well. Their defense got after Indianapolis early, even before Daniel Jones got hurt. But, you know, the Colts are clearly the bigger story here as their collapse continues.
But you're right, though. With the Jaguars, you were talking earlier in the show about how this is a defensive-minded league. It's why so much more than even normally you need a good offensive mind. Like, coaching is so important in the league right now to create any sort of offensive production. And what Liam Cohen is doing with Trevor Lawrence in that offense, again, are they a complete top 5 unit week in and week out? No. But he has done a really significant, good job of getting Trevor Lawrence to play a consistent level of football that could win them the division here. Like, I think coaching is really crucial right now for offensive production, more so than ever.
100%. I think Liam Cohen has some sauce. That's why I picked the Jags to win the division, despite them getting a top 5 pick last year, baby. I called it because I believe in Liam Cohen. But with that being said, talking about hot offensive coordinators, play callers, offensive minds, Ben Johnson was getting a lot of credit for the Bears going into this matchup against the Green Bay Packers. But you know what? It was Matt LaFleur, once again, who had his team ready to go. The Green Bay Packers got it done, as my guy Peter Bukowski talked about after the game.
Packers were able to manufacture plays all day, whether it was crucial runs or it was explosive passes. Green Bay, 28 points. It could have been even more had Jordan Love not short-armed a throw on the first drive of the game that turned into an interception. We talked all week about not turning the football over, and this defense was gettable. It turned out this Chicago defense was gettable. Green Bay missed some opportunities in this game to do it, but they created the explosives. 3rd and 1, they get the Christian Watson touchdown. They get the crucial Josh Jacobs touchdown. They made it work.
The Packers did what they had to do in this one. Again, it wasn't clean. Jordan Love made the plays early, and then late, the Packers were able to run the ball with some success. I look at the Bears, and this was a prove-it game for me, for the Bears. I wanted to see them go into Lambeau, and you know what? They didn't win. But Caleb Williams made some good plays at the end. They did run the football a little bit. They just couldn't get the stops when they needed it. I honestly, and listen, Caleb Williams throws the interception at the end. Bad throw. He had him open. He had DJ Moore open, even closer. That's probably a score. But Caleb Williams did make some throws, some incredible throws down the sideline to keep them in it. The Bears ran the ball. This is a young team that's overperforming right now. I know that they lost and Bears fans aren't happy, but I think if you take a step back, you could be happy with the Bears and be like, yeah, the Packers are better, though.
Yeah, this team is not going to say they believe in moral victories, but the Bears kind of needed this competition against Green Bay. Like, they needed to show that they were at this level, even in a loss, because before this, at 9-3, the number 1 seed, nobody still believed. So I think that definitely helped the Bears. And for the Packers, they're similar to the Jaguars. When you look at Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, they're so hot and cold, but if you get that version of Jordan Love, like in the playoffs, if you get that version of Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs, these are sneaky teams on both sides of the league that could do some damage. You just never know what version you're going to get, though. And this was a big spot, and Love came up big.
Yeah, they got Toyota-thon Jordan Love early in the game, making some plays and stuff like that. But, yeah, I think the Packers are just ahead of the Bears in their life cycle as a team, and I don't think that the Bears should be too discouraged. But the problem is the Bears are now fighting for their playoff lives. After losing this one, Green Bay takes the division, and the Bears, or the Lions, are still right behind them as well. In theory, I guess the Cowboys could be right behind them as well. Everything's so tight back there that the Bears can't sleep for a moment, and they got a tough schedule ahead, too. The Bears still do, so it could get difficult. But we move to the AFC North, away from the NFC North, and by God, just when you least expect it, the Steelers play good football once again. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats come open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You just pull up the app, and the layout makes it super simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, and event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. You see a receiver get hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props that update as guys heat up. You could bet the next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked in to every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com to place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, Louis, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the Chiefs, Texans, Colts, Jags, Packers, Bears. Now we got to go to the AFC North, where we got two big-time matchups that had a lot to do with the playoff standings and what is possible. We start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Just when you least expect it, they always do this. They always do this. The Steelers are playing terrible. I'm like, they're dead. They're playing awful football. I don't trust them. And what do? They go in and they beat the Baltimore Ravens. And, of course, it was a wild game, as my guy Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers talked about.
Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast with your post-game reaction to the Steelers' big-time 27-22 win over the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore, advancing to 7-6, reclaiming first place in the AFC North. A huge win for the Steelers, a statement win in many ways. The Ravens were a team that were surging back. Lamar Jackson found his mobility again. Derrick Henry was getting to work. But Aaron Rodgers in this offense comes out and hits on at least 4 deep balls that opens up the rest of the offense, and it got things going, showing that the Steelers offense can find ways to win even when it's not running the ball well. That could be huge for the Steelers down the stretch of this season if they're able to get that passing game going. DK Metcalf had a spectacular day with Aaron Rodgers. The defense started strong, had some struggles through most of the second half, but finished strong with 2 straight stops. That's what you wanted. We'll break more of that down on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Find us on your favorite podcasting apps and on YouTube.
When I talked about this game, I talked about the turnovers because the Ravens had 5 turnovers the game before, and the Steelers' defense is basically only good when they're able to force turnovers and give the ball back to the offense in easy situations. Like, that is the formula for the Steelers. And in this game late, they may not look like turnovers in the stat sheet, but the Ravens had multiple failed 4th down conversions that are turnovers on downs. You know what I mean? Like, they had opportunities in the red zone, opportunities to score points, and they weren't able to get it done. So they have 1 turnover on an interception by Lamar Jackson that's just a terrible interception in the first half. But again, late in the game, they had multiple opportunities to score, and they weren't able to do it. I will tell you this, though. I think that should have been a touchdown to Isaiah Likely at the end of the game. He catches the ball in the end zone. He takes 2 steps, which is possession, control, 2 steps down. He doesn't hit the ground, so he doesn't have to survive the catch. There should be a time limit. Once you get possession, you have 2 feet in bounds. It's a touchdown. End the play. Doesn't matter what happens after that. And I thought he had that, and they still said that it was incomplete and it wasn't a touchdown. So I honestly think the Ravens got robbed in this one, but their own mistakes and their own failures. Like, Mark Andrews knocks one away from DeAndre Hopkins thinking that the ball is going to him. Rashad Bateman has a ball bounce right off his hands that Lamar throws to him. Lamar throws the stupid interception on the sideline, just floats it and doesn't look right throughout the game at points and times. The Ravens made enough of their own self-inflicted mistakes that I'm not going to act like it was a travesty, but I still, just from that particular call, the Steelers got lucky. But the Steelers defense just finds a way to make big plays in big moments, man.
And the Ravens never do. Luck comes to the prepared, and the Baltimore Ravens are never prepared to win the big games in the playoffs in these like do or die kind of situations. Their season's not over, but this is just what I've come to accept and to understand about the Baltimore Ravens. So I think it says more about Baltimore. I mean, this was similar to the Bills playoff game last year. It's like, at the end, did they maybe make the play that should have got it done? The Mark Andrews drop, the likely no touchdown in this game, sure. but maybe you don't make all those mistakes before that so you don't have to climb out of this hole. And that's what they always do. I don't know. They give me kind of LA Clippers, another NBA analogy vibe, where it's the James Harden, Lamar Jackson comparisons. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just not meant to be for this guy to win the big games. And Pittsburgh's going to waste another playoff spot. And I still don't take them seriously in the postseason, but I think they're going to make it again and find a way to keep Tomlin's job.
Yeah, absolutely. They always do. And it's funny, me and Michelle is a Steelers fan. We were talking about, and she's like, I actually think the Steelers win this one because the Steelers just win these games. That's just what they do. They just, when you think they're done, when you think they're cooked, they just find a way to win these games. So shout out to Pittsburgh, who continues to do it. And there's been a lot of noise around the Steelers and Mike Tomlin and stuff this week. What an answer by them to win this game. And they play the Ravens the last weekend of the season. That is just, we know that is going to be pure cinema. And the reason that game's probably going to be so important is because the Bengals wasted this final get out of jail free card that they had against the Buffalo Bills. And now it looks like the Bengals season might officially be over, and they can only blame their own dumb mistakes, according to my guy Jake Lisco from Locked On Bengals.
I've seen the Cincinnati Bengals lose a lot of football games in a lot of stupid ways in the last 2 years, and this may have taken the cake. And I don't know if that's recency bias talking or not. Joe Burrow throws one of the worst interceptions of his career to give Buffalo the lead on a drive that could have put the Bengals up 2 scores. I mean, it's 1st and 10. They have a run play called, and Joe Burrow decides, I'm going to take the quick pass to Jamar Chase and try to steal some yards. I like that look better, but Christian Benford jumps it. Burrow can't get the laces, has to shot put it, and Benford takes it for 6. After that, Burrow throws another interception on the next Bengals offensive play. And that's just ball game at that point. That's a 2-score lead for Buffalo with not enough time for the Bengals, who yet again somehow managed to have a chance. The Bills are in 3rd and 15. And Al Golden calls man. Rushes 4. There's no one to contain Josh Allen. Allen scrambles for the 1st down. Ball game. Terrible loss. Stupid. The Bengals in control the whole way. What an unreal meltdown.
It was an unreal meltdown. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that first interception that got tipped up on the wide receiver screen and taken back for a pick 6, just absolutely unbelievable. Joe Burrow's a good player. That I don't think he made some kind of crazy, dumb decision there. It just, Christian Benford made a freaking play, man, and the Bills have been looking for guys to make a play on defense all year.
And thank God somebody made a play for Josh Allen, who was just a superhero in the snow today, just putting the team on his back. The defense could not get a stop all game long. 2 back-to-back picks. That was a massive win for the Bills because now I feel like they're secure, at least in that top wildcard spot.
100%. And I just want to say this real fast before we move to our final rundown here. It's something that I'm going to talk about this week on Locked On NFL and dive into more. But it truly is now or never this year for Josh Allen. You look at the play. There's a Patriots team that's just had a terrible schedule. The Broncos, who we know
his kryptonite's not in the playoffs. Mahomes is not going to be
Lamar, there. Burrow, all probably not going to be there. It's going to be him. He's the only big dog at the table. It is now or never for Josh Allen. We'll talk more about that later this week on Locked On NFL. But Louie, in our quick rundown here, the Seahawks dismantle the Falcons 37-9. The Titans get their second win of the season, 31-29 over the Browns, where Shedeur Sanders looks good. The Vikings dominate the Commanders out of nowhere, 31-0. Dolphins 34-10 over the lifeless Jets. The Saints get their 3rd win, 24-20 over the Bucks. That's kind of a big-time upset there. The Broncos beat the Raiders, but it gets close late, 24-17. And the Rams destroy the Cardinals, 45-17. Anything out of those games that stands out to you?
Yeah, Shedeur Sanders must have been the most annoying player of all time in combine interviews because he clearly is not a 5th-round talent. Like, I don't think he was a top 5 pick in the 1st round, but my God, he had to have done something to piss everybody off because he was really good today. I know it was Tennessee, it was your Titans, but Sanders has clearly proven that he belongs at least as like a competitive, maybe starter or top-tier backup at the worst.
Louis, as we said the whole time, what the heck are we doing with Dylan Gabriel? Why is he out there? Why did he get drafted there?
3rd-round pick. What a waste of time. I know.
What are we? Yeah, Browns being Browns. You're right. And I will tell you this. It's kind of crazy. They should have won that game by a ton. The Browns defense. Myles Garrett, one of the worst performances of his NFL career against the offensive line that's given up the most sacks in the NFL this season. It defied logic. Top 10 run defense by the Browns that gave up 180 rushing yards to the Titans, who had the worst rushing attack in the least rushing yards per game. Titans ran for 180 on the Browns. The worst offensive line in the league gave up the most sacks. 1 sack by Myles Garrett. He got right before halftime. Lowest pressure rate of the entire year. It just defied logic. Shedeur got screwed.
That's the NFL season in a nutshell, man. Like, it's just, it defies logic, and it's been doing it all year.
It really does. But with that being said, that is going to do it for us today. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Legacy Louis DiBiase, as we tell you every episode. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.